Hi everybody, Dom Tiberi joined by Anthony Rothman, and welcome to the Sports Lounge. And this is our first episode ever. And Anthony, can we get a better guest?
Well, the leadoff hitter, Jack Nicklaus, with us back on campus. Good to see you, my man. How you feeling?
I'm doing great, thank you.
It's great, Dom. This is one of the coolest things because it's just going to be kind of telling stories that maybe we've heard before, but we need to hear them again.
Well, the one thing I want to ask, you're 84 years old, and I heard you played 3 days in a row of golf. Is that correct?
I did.
How'd you play?
Terrible.
Now, what is terrible for Jack Nicklaus?
What's terrible? I shot 3 days. I played at Augusta. Of course, they don't have any forward tees. So I shot 88, 90, 91. I played once about a month earlier at the Bears Club, and I shot, I finished not very well. I finished triple bogey, double bogey, par for 85. So I play a golf course that I can play it lengthwise. I can play, but I can't play Augusta. It's too long.
Shooting 80s, though. How far do you drive the ball now?
190 yards.
I'd take 190 right now.
Incredibly impressive.
Guys, come on.
Well,
come on. It's ridiculous.
Well, let me ask you this, though. Because I think a lot of people think that the golf was, in your past and you had moved on.
Yeah.
Playing again, what drove you to want to play like that again, and how much have you missed it? Did you like playing, aside from the scores, did you enjoy it?
I will tell you the circumstances. I have no desire to play 3 days in a row. We had our fundraiser at the Bears Club, and we did auction off a golfer every year. This year we had two fellas bidding, and they both got to 200. So I saw I had a very philanthropic group, and so we ended up picking two players. So I raised an extra $300,000, and so I said, "Hey guys, what if I came out of retirement, and I take anybody or a group of 3 guys to a golf course of my choice?" I said, "Would anybody be interested in that?" And Andy North was doing the commentary, or he was announcing. And he said, "Well," I'll start with 50,000. I said, "Well, add a 0." So he said 500,000. So a fellow in front said 600. Another guy said 700. And I said, and that was sort of a semi-silence. And I said, "I think that's enough." And there was a fellow named Steve Estrick. I said, "Steve, you'll love Lost Tree." Well, he lives right next to Lost Tree. So anyway, we did say, hey, my choice was not going to be Lost Tree, but it was my choice. Because if I ever auctioned off Augusta National, I get thrown out of the club. So I didn't do that. And I never said I did that. Well, anyway, so I got done. One of the guys that offered 600 came back in the room, and he said, "I missed the thing." He says, "Can I do one of those things for 700? I said, "Sure." Next morning, another fellow came to me and says, "Can I do one for 700? I said, "Okay." So I took 3 days of golf in a row. I went to Augusta, played 3 days of golf, raised $2 million for Children's Foundation. That's why I paid $3 a year. That was a week ago, and I'm still paying for it. My body hates me.
Well, you know what? God bless you what would $700 get me?
700? It might get you a handshake.
I could be the guy picking your tee up.
That's if you're real nice.
Jack, we're at Ohio State, a pitching wedge away from where you learned how to play golf at Scioto. I wanted to ask you about your father, because I don't think I ever have asked you about, was he a great athlete?
Good athlete.
He was.
Played football, basketball, baseball at Ohio State. City tennis champion. Played pro ball for the Portsmouth Spartans, which are now the Detroit Lions in the NFL. Yeah, he was a good athlete. And he introduced me to all sports. That's what he did. He loved having a son that, he could go play sports with and play with. My dad, my best friend, and we played everything together.
Yeah.
Did he push you at all to play golf?
No. My dad didn't push me into anything. He introduced me to it and worked with me as much as I wanted to work. And so, no, he didn't push me into golf, not at all. He would, if he pushed me anywhere, he'd push me to football, because that's what he played. And of course, you know the story about Woody is the one that he says, "Charlie," he was a customer of my dad's drugstore. And I said, "Charlie," he says, "I know your son is a good athlete." He says, "But you keep him as far away from my sport as you can." He says he's got a talent elsewhere that you should let him grow with.
Well, Woody covered you. What was it, your first?
No, it was not my first. I was national amateur champion in 1959. Right. 1960, we played the U.S. Open at Cherry Hills.
Right.
And the Dispatcher, the Citizen, 2 papers at that time, didn't send out Kay Kessler or Paul Hoarding. And so Woody says, "What? You're national amateur champion?" And they didn't even send out coverage. So Woody wrote a story every day, sent it back to the newspapers.
That's awesome. You met Bobby Jones when you were a young guy, a teenager, correct? Mm-hmm. Were you chasing him in a way? Was he your idol?
Well, he's my dad's idol. Okay. My dad watched him play when he was growing up, watched him win the Open at Scioto in 26. He got mistaken for Bobby Jones in 31 when the Ryder Cup was being played there. They said, "Hey, Mr. Jones, come on in here. We got a seat for you." My dad never wanted to shy away from stuff. Went right on in, sat down till they found out who it was, and they kicked you out. But Jones had always been his idol. And when I first qualified for the U.S. Amateur in 55, 15 years old, I went down to the Country Club of Virginia and I met Bobby Jones. He was a speaker there, and he came out and watched me play, and I managed to make a bunch of bogeys and double bogeys. And but anyway, we developed a little bit of a relationship. And when I first went to the Masters, he had a note in my locker to please invited my father and me down to his cabin to talk. We did that every year, and I loved my relationship with Bob Jones, although I never saw him hit a golf shot.
Oh, wow. Only in your mind kind of knew who he was and how he dominated the sport like you did.
Well, yeah, the last shot he hit was 1948. And I was 8 years old. I didn't play golf until I was 10.
Do you remember if you were nervous meeting him and then knowing he was watching you that time in Virginia? Did that affect you?
Well, I was one up after 10 holes, and I went bogey, bogey, double bogey. Lost all 3 holes. A fellow named Bob Gardner, who I later played with on Walker Cup and Eisenhower Trophy teams. And ended up losing the match 1 up, but he turned to my dad and he said, "Charlie," he says, "I don't think I'm doing Jack any good." So he got out of there after 3 holes, and I got back to even and lost the last hole. But yeah, sure, I was nervous about Bob Jones watching me. Absolutely.
People always talk about your competitive spirit, and I think just knowing you that you love competing. I mean, that was your thing. Are you that way in everything you approach? I mean, golf, we saw the way, there was nothing better than watching you on a Sunday and, either in the lead or chasing the leader.
Sure.
But in life, do you compete in everything?
Sure, I'm competing against you two right now.
Really?
Absolutely. But you don't want me not to compete, do you?
No, I love that.
No, I'm not being facetious.
But I know what you mean.
I know facetious, but I compete in everything. That's the way I do it. Barbara and I go fishing. I compete with Barbara fishing. She always catches the biggest fish, and I got to do that one time. And my kids, no matter what they did, if they beat me, they beat me. They earned it. It wasn't that Dad never gave it to them, and they like that. I mean, they never had any of them. Gary for years never could beat me playing golf. I'd hold a 20 or 30 footer at the last hole to nip him, and he says, "I know going to the last hole, Dad's going to make that putt. He's going to beat me." And that's the way I was. But I try to instill that in my kids too. I wanted my kids to be competitive. I wanted them to like to be the best they could be at whatever they did. That's all I wanted to do, is be the best I could be. And if that means through competition, that's where you have to get there.
Who's the better fisher, man or woman? Who catches more fish, you or Barbara?
Oh, I probably catch more fish than Barbara. Barbara always seems to always squeak in the largest fish, and that poundage absolutely carries her through the day.
That's terrific. I wanted to ask you about the confidence that you have when you were playing. Did you ever find a time, because nobody plays great all the time, did you go through times during your career that you even questioned at that time your own confidence, or did you always use maybe not playing well as the motivator? How did you deal with it?
Everybody plays poorly at times, and you just, the whole point of the thing is Jack Grout taught me how to be responsible for my own game, and meaning that when I got in trouble or got playing poorly or got doing something, I would go do something about it. I don't care whether that was the middle of the last round of the U.S. Open. I'd change it. And, that's just what I did. And if I was playing poorly in a tournament, didn't play very well, and let's just say I just made the cut, then back teeing off, and, at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, I knew that there was a reason why I was there, and I had to work on getting better to play on Sunday, or else also to be ready for the next week. And I always felt like you always wanted, no matter what you did, you tried to get better. And if you weren't playing well, you fixed it and so you didn't have long, prolonged slumps, as you might say.
I remember one highlight. I think maybe it was at St. Andrews when you hold that final putt and you flung that putter in the air. It was one of the most, I thought, genuine, pure moments in your sports career, only because it was so uncharacteristic. Probably it was like Judge Smales did it in Caddyshack. I didn't expect Jack Nicklaus to lose his putter like that, and then Doug probably took cover.
Yeah.
But that was kind of.
But he wasn't any slouch. He was a tremendous slouch.
We just got Jack Nicklaus to quote Caddyshack. My job is done here. He wasn't a tremendous
slouch.
Right.
Yeah.
And he measured himself by height against other golfers.
Yeah,
but you remember that? Was that at St. Andrews?
That was when I beat Sanders to playoff in 1970.
You hold the putt to beat him.
Pulled about a 6-foot putt, and the putter just came out of my hand. I mean, I wanted to win at St. Andrews. Bobby Jones had always told me, he says, your golfing resume is not complete until you win at St. Andrews. And I'd wanted Muirfield, but I wanted to win at St. Andrews, and when I made that putt, I won at St. Andrews. So it's pretty exciting for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I almost killed Doug Sanders with the putter. The putter came down, almost hit him in the head.
It was fun watching you compete. And I've asked Barbara about the stare. And it's been well written. And I just want to ask you, because people would say, Jack would get that stare, that look. I think I'm getting it now. And Barbara would say, take those steely blue eyes off me,
The
Jack.
steely blues?
Yeah. Did you do that? Did you? I mean all fair in love and war, right?
I didn't use that as a tool or anything, but when I concentrated, I concentrated. Period.
But you were there for business. You were there to win.
Yeah, I am concentrating. I was working on it. My steely blues maybe looked right through people at times.
Did you feel that sometimes when you arrived at a tournament, knowing your talent, your stature, that you were already up a couple strokes on the field, did you feel you intimidated others on the golf course?
Well, I don't know whether I did or not, but I wouldn't want to stand around and ask.
Yeah.
I just want to go ahead and play.
Obviously, you've been the hero to so many young people watching your career and everything you've done. When you were growing up, who were your idols? Who did you look to?
Well, I looked at Bobby Jones's record because he won at Scioto in 1926, and there were a lot of members that were at Scioto when I started. They were still there, and so I always had that Jones hit it here, Jones did this, Jones did that. But as I started playing, I think probably the first time I really became very aware of what was going on was when Hogan, I think, won the U.S. Open in '53. He'd won the Masters, then he won the U.S. Open in '53. And I'm sitting there saying that, here's a guy. I was 13 years old at the time, and so I was now competing and playing. So I remember doing that. And of course, then he went on to Carnoustie and won at Carnoustie. He couldn't play in the PGA because he couldn't get back. The PGA was the next week, and the only way they were getting back was by boat. So there's no way in the world they were going to do that. So unfortunately, he couldn't play all four of them in 1 year. Probably would have won all four, I would think. But Hogan, I watched Clyde. I played a lot of golf with Snead. As Arnold came along, Arnold took me under his wing, and didn't have to do that, but he did, and I thank him for it because he just sort of saw this young guy coming along and took a liking to me, and I liked Arnold. We got along fine. We got along great. Our wives were best of friends. So those are the guys I grew up with.
Is it true, first of all, or was it very tough when you played against Arnold, especially at Oakmont, and places where you were the greatest champion ever. He was the people's champ at the time, and you had to go up against that. And I had read that you were even, people heckled you at those tournaments.
I was just a kid at the time. I was 22 years old. I mean, but that happened every time Arnold played. I didn't make sure who he was playing against. And, you know, Arnold was the king, and the average fan who maybe wasn't a golf fan or wasn't a golf fan, they knew Arnold Palmer hitching up his pants and, you know, going out and playing. That's what they liked. So, you know, I was just another one of those victims of that. But, you know, as I always said, I may have had to fight Arnold's army, but I never had to fight him. And so that was a blessing for me. And he could have made it difficult for me, but he didn't. He didn't like that any better than I did.
Yeah. Did you feel you benefited, though, from having to play in that adversity, or did you not even
I never even knew about it.
Really?
I never paid attention to it. Somebody said, "How did you play it, Oakmont, with all those people doing that?" I said, "What people?"
Wow.
You know, I never heard any of that stuff.
That leads me to two things. First of all, the mental toughness. Where did that come from? Where do you think you learned that? Because I think 90% of the game is just mental toughness, being able to block all, you know, into confidence.
I just love to compete, Dom, and you know, I don't care what sport it was. I mean, if we were playing basketball, I wanted the ball at the end of the game. You know, if we were doing, you know, I always dreamed of playing football. You know, we tied the score. I want to kick that extra point. You know, whatever it was, I wanted that. I wanted that moment. That's my competitive nature.
That takes me to the next thing, going back to Arnold. And was he your favorite guy to compete against? And not only in golf. Arnie told me one time that you guys competed at everything. Everything. And he said he was pumped when he built, and I remember talking to him when he built Tartan Fields, a wedge away from Muirfield Village. And he just said, "Jack and I, we have competed our whole lives, and we'll continue to compete in everything."
Yeah, I suppose, you know, I miss Arnold, but I miss the competition as much as anything. Because, I mean, as you say, we competed. I mean, even until I talked to him about 2 weeks before he passed, and I maybe a little more than that. I mean, it was his birthday, and I called him and I said, "How you doing, AP?" And I always called him on his birthday. And he says, "I'm doing great." He says, "Actually," he says, "I'm really feeling good." He says, "I think I'm going out. I feel good. I'm going to start hitting some balls this week." I mean, I know he's lying to me, you know, but that's his competitive nature. And the two of us, he knew that I would get, you know, inspired by that, I suppose. And so that's the way he was. We were great about that. We played so many tournaments where a shot or two out of the lead. We play together in the third round, and we'd shoot 73 or 74, and we got done, we shake hands, and we says, "Well, we did it again." Trying to beat each other, we pushed ourselves out of the tournament. We did that a lot of times. And, you know, I think our competition was more about the two of us than it was the tournament.
There's a famous picture, I think, of you guys exchanging dollar bills after a
When I was
round.
a practice round someplace.
It was.
Yeah.
Were you giving him money, or was he giving it to
Oh,
you?
no, he would give it to me.
Okay.
Absolutely.
For the record.
Yeah, for the record.
Did you ever wager at practice rounds?
I tell you what I did. All my life, I always felt I never played more than a $10 Nassau with anybody. And except for Arnold, we played 20. And we played a $10 Nassau. I figured that if somebody loses $10, you know, they can afford that, you know, and I can afford that, and I don't lose a friend. And so, but if I just played any more than that, they're going to say, "Oh, you're taking advantage of me," or I give them so many strokes that it's not a competition. Then that's no fun. So I made my mind up never to gamble much with my friends and not do that. Arnold and I, you know, we could both afford $20, so we always tried to hammer each other as much as to get that $20.
You know, the other thing I want to ask you, and you know it, you saw it, especially when you played, the travel and everything, it was hard on families. I mean, marriage life, and to this day, it's not easy to be married and all over the. How do you think you managed it? Because you told me one time, I said, "What's your greatest accomplishment?" And you said it's your family.
Well, my greatest accomplishment is because of Barbara. Barbara's the one that made sure that I knew my kids, and she'd come to the West Coast if we were playing out there, and if I was going to be away for 2 or 3 weeks, she would make sure that I wasn't with my kids, or wasn't. I promised I'd never be away more than 2 weeks away from my family, and I never broke that. And so she would come out to a tournament and maybe spend 3 or 4 days in the weekend, bring the kids. She might have a couple in diapers, but she was amazing about doing that, and that was what's so neat about it. And family was pretty important.
It's your legacy,
Yeah.
right? I know I've heard you talk about that before. The golf is the golf, and you'll always be there. You've set a mark now in the game that kids will be chasing forever, and I think that's pretty special. I assume you do too. Do you feel like this 18 major championships is cemented for decades? If one guy was going to get it, it probably would have been Tiger. But
Well, I don't know whether anybody today might get there. We thought Rory might have a shot, restarted. I mean, Rahm has got several. Scheffler's got a couple. I don't know who else is even remotely close, but we sort of felt like when Tiger was playing that he had a shot at it. Mm-hmm. But I don't see anybody as talented as Tiger coming along. Tiger is so talented and so motivated. He was one of the kids that their father pushed him into the game, and he loved it. And not many kids do that. Most kids will rebel sooner or later. He never rebelled. He just absorbed it and really liked it. And he still loves to play golf today. I mean, I think Tiger he hasn't said he would, but I think he'll go to the senior tour. And I think he'll absolutely kill him because he'll be able to ride the cart.
the tale of the tape between you guys as golfers, is there something you believed you definitely did better than him and something you feel he did better than you when you compare the games, not the records?
Well, I don't know. I think I was a better driver of the golf ball than Tiger. I think they were both good iron players. I think he had a better short game and we were both good putters. It was really kind of funny. I didn't think about that till right now. I sit next to Tiger every year at the Masters dinner. And we're sitting there in the Masters and we're mentioned, he said, well, the senior tour, you're not far away and so forth. So then about a minute later, he says, how many senior tournaments did you win? How many majors? And then the question came out for one reason. He wanted to know what his goal was. I love that. I got a big kick out of that.
You have the record for majors. You've got the record for second place finishes. You ever think back and is there one that you didn't get, or is there a couple you didn't get that you felt like you should have won?
Sure there was. Absolutely.
Tom's giving you a career mulligan right now. Where are you taking it?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of them that I could have won, the other ones that, but I didn't.
Was the 86 Masters with Jackie on the bag, was that your best victory?
One bad.
No, it's pretty good. I remember just stopping what I was doing. I was a kid at the newsroom and I went crazy watching you. And then Vern going, yes, sir. I mean, do you ever sit back and watch that? Do you get goosebumps watching you?
No, I don't get that.
You don't really? I still do.
But I don't.
But I'm me. And
I'm trying to figure out, what I did and what I did and why I did it and so forth. But anyway, I enjoy, every once in a while the 86 Masters will be on, and I'll watch a little bit of it, but it's on a lot. So I enjoy it, but it's just I never really relished too much about what I did. I always want to figure out what am I going to do in the future.
But did you surprise yourself that week?
Yeah, of course I did. I got to Sunday, and I knew that if I really played a good round, I had a shot. I remember Steve calling me in the morning, and he said, what do you think, Pops? And I said, well, I think 66 will tie, 65 will win. He says, exact number I have in mind, go shoot it. And I said, okay. So I went out, and the front 9, I just didn't do much. I made 1 birdie, 1 bogey, and birdied 9, which meant that was 35 out, and I needed to shoot 30 coming back. So, it did, but it happened. It's like I got through with 12, 13 maybe, and I said, I got to remember how to finish, and I remembered how to finish. I remembered what I did during the days, and I finished the golf tournament the way I needed to finish it. No different than Tiger in 2019. And when I watched Poulter and Molinari and Finau and there was one other one, they hit it in the water, or Koepka hit it in the water at 12, and they all played right to left shots. And I said, you can't play that hole with a right to left shot. And Tiger stood up. He played a little cut off the left side of the bunker into the green. And I said, he'll remember how. I said, tournament's over. He'll remember how to play the last few holes, and he did, and he won. And that's what happened to me. I remembered how to play. It'd been a while for Tiger, but we both remembered how to finish. And that's what good players do. They remember what they had to do and the feeling of what it is, and then they can bring it back.
The story you told earlier about the amount of money you raised for someone wanting to play golf with you is about as special as there could be. Dom's been here a long time. This will be my 30th memorial covering it. And we were always asked, if you had a dream foursome, who would you want to play in it? And most of the guys, amateur guys, will say, well, me or my dad, with my grandfather, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, that'd be a great foursome. Me, you, Tiger, and Bill Murray. I don't know. That way I could assure I wasn't the worst golfer in the foursome. Do you have a dream foursome? Anybody that you played with, past, present, or you'd like?
It would be just my 4 boys, be 5-some.
Okay.
Those. But if I had to pick a foursome from golfers of the past, I'd pick Jones.
Okay.
I'd pick Hogan. And I'd probably pick Tiger.
Yeah.
I think they were probably the 3 best players of each era.
Back to the Masters real quickly. In the golfing world, I think people believe that's the most famous golf tournament. It's played at the same course every year. It's amazing. The green jacket is iconic. You have 6 of them. Is it more important or more famous than the U.S. Open? Should it be? Where do you have it ranked?
Well, I have it ranked 4th, but the reason I have it ranked 4th is because that's what Bobby Jones would have wanted. In other words, Bobby Jones started the Masters and called it a tournament. And the Masters tournament was being fed by the players who played the best in the U.S. Open, who played the best in the British Open, and played the best in the PGA Championship. That was the nucleus of players that played at that tournament. And he didn't want to be so presumptuous as to think that his tournament was more important than those 3 majors. So the Masters is probably my favorite one to play in, and I've loved winning it. But I respect Bobby Jones's wishes, and I would go the U.S. Open, the championship by country. I would go the British Open, which is the championship of the rest of the world, and then the PGA Championship was the championship by association. And the Masters, as far as rated tournaments, I'd put that 4th, but you could take that and reverse it back into the first one of the most enjoyable and probably the most visible. So it depends on how you look at it.
It's a good way to look at it.
Well, I'll tell you, a great way to look at it, our first ever Sports Lounge interview. You were
Home run, my man.
Good fun, guys.
He's the one and only Jack Nicklaus. Thanks for watching.